Hey, it's Bound to Divide here with Ableton Tips, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a really nice lush evolving pad using Wavetable in Ableton. Okay, so I've just got some chords that I've prepared for this. The whole point of this was just to basically make really big chords, so you can see there's lots of voices being used here. They're nice and spread out across the octaves. Okay, so we just loaded up Wavetable. And now the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be going to Oscillator 1 over here and setting it to a saw wave. It doesn't have to be like perfectly a saw wave. You can maybe shift it up a bit so you're getting something slightly more unique. And that's going to sound like this. Let's just turn down the volume here. Okay, so for this pad we want a lot of voices and we're going to get that from using something called Unison. So over here on the right you see it says Unison, it says none. If we change that to classic or shimmer or one of these, it's going to create as many voices as we choose. So here we can choose like 8 or 3 or whatever. And I'm going to set this to the maximum of 8 voices. And so what this is doing is it's basically creating copies of each voice and spreading them out and detuning them. And that detune is dictated by the amount here. So if we listen to this, you can hear it's nice and wide now, but as I start to increase this amount, you'll hear it detuning and it'll start to become really like smeared and almost like fluffy sounding. And the more you go, it's going to start going out of tune. So we wanted probably around 30%. And we can just try these different modes. I think my favorite one here is shimmer. I like it because it kind of sounds like its pitch is drifting a little bit like a tape effect, which sounds really nice. Then we're going to go into Oscillator 2 here, and we're just going to click on this little square to enable it. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set it to a saw wave, but with this one we're going to pitch it down 12 semitones. And we're doing that because we want to add another octave of voices to really thicken up the pad and make it nice and beefy. So now you can hear we've got this really huge sound already, and we haven't even touched anything else. Okay, so next we're going to be looking at this amp envelope, and with a pad sound you usually want the pad to kind of fade in over time. So we can just grab this little square here and increase it, or you can use the attack time here and drag it up and down. Probably want about 2 seconds. And then we're going to create drop off, so we're going to bring down this sustain to about -13. That doesn't have to be exact, but basically half the original volume, the half of this high point over here. And then we want quite a long decay. Let's make it 6 seconds. Okay, and then we want to increase this release because we want the tail of each chord to overlap from each other and really just make this pad really lush. And we don't want sudden stops between chords. We don't want something like this to happen. We want this to overlap. So I'd say about 2 seconds of release. And then we're going to go into envelope 2. And we're going to use this to control the filter. So if I just grab this point here and bring it down, that's what we essentially want to do, but we want to do that automatically. So we're going to use envelope 2 to modulate this cutoff frequency. So let's go over into the matrix here, and we're going to go to filter 1 frequency. You can see we've clicked on it and now it's white, so we can see it there. And we're just going to go to envelope 2 and we're just going to increase the amount here. And at the moment it's behaving a bit more like a pluck. I think we're just going to bring it up to about 70. And we're going to have our starting point at 200 Hertz. So yeah, it's behaving a bit like a pluck now, and we don't really want that. We need to change the shape of envelope 2. A quick way to get back to envelope 2 is to just click over here and it'll jump back to envelope 2. Okay, then we're going to have a similar sort of shape. We want around 2 seconds of attack. We want a long decay and a nice long release too. Okay, so now we've got it's like your typical pad where we've got the filter opening, but it's kind of predictable and boring to me because it's mathematically doing the same thing every time. And it's not very exciting. It doesn't feel very alive. Introduce some randomness almost into the sound by using an LFO. So I've clicked on LFO 1 here, and we can map it to this filter cutoff. So now this filter is going to be moving with the envelope. It's also going to be moving with the LFO. So let's first just assign it LFO 1 to the filter frequency. And I'm going to not do too much, maybe about 40 over here. If we play that now, now you can hear what the LFO is doing, but I don't want the LFO to move so quickly. So we're going to go over here to the rate, and we're going to change it to, we're going to click on this little button over here, which is it from Hertz into like tempo synced LFO. And here we can change the rate. So you can see if we set this to 16ths, we'd get that sort of really fast movement. And what I want is to actually set it to 3/1. So it's going to be like 3 bars long, or maybe we can do 1.5. Now let's do 3. And I want to change this to a triangle shape. Okay, but it's still predictable, and the reason for that is every time we start a new note, the LFO re-triggers and starts from its initial phase point, and that's not going to add any randomness or variation to it. So it's very important to just turn off re-trigger here by clicking on this R button over here, and now when we play it, so now you can see, or you can hear, that this filter is in a different position on each chord, and when the chord change happens, it's at a different position. So now it's starting to feel like somebody's actually just sitting there and turning these by hand and kind of feeling it out. So it feels a lot more alive to me. Okay, and then I want to introduce like a little bit more of like a detuning, going out of tune kind of vibe, like a tape vibe to it. So we're going to use LFO 2 here, and we're going to map it to the frequency. So if we go to pitch here, we go to LFO 2, and we're just going to turn this up very slightly, and now you can hear it going up and down in pitch, but that's obviously way too much. So we just need to click on LFO 2, and we want to decrease the amount. And what we can do with this is we can also introduce some attack. So it kind of, LFO fades in. So we won't hear it for, if we increase it to maybe, I don't know, 1 second or half a second, we'll only start to hear this LFO fade in towards the end of the chord. So it'll have like the tail of the chord will start pitching a little bit, which is kind of a nice effect. Still sounds like it's a bit too much. So I'm going to go back here to the matrix and just bring down this pitch amount here to like 1.5. Okay, I like that. I think it sounds good. All right, so now we can, I'm thinking of adding a bit of distortion to it. And a great way to do that is to use this filter. And we can change it from clean to any one of these models. These are like modeled off of real analog filters and stuff. So what happens is when you enable one of them, for example, this PRD1, which I think is like a Moog filter or something, we can take this, and now you see this drive. If you just focus over here on this little area over here, you'll see there's no drive option, but when we enable this one, suddenly we get that drive feature. And we use this to basically introduce some distortion. It's like saturating the filter or overdriving the filter so that the signal like clips into the filter and distorts, and we can get like a nice gritty texture to it. But as we do that, it's going to increase the volume too, so we're going to have to decrease the volume here. So let's just listen to it. So here you can see this plugin is now clipping, going into the red. Let's bring down the volume quite a lot. And I want to actually drive this signal a lot. And what you can do with this is you can also introduce resonance. When you have the drive up really high, resonance doesn't sound the way you'd expect. It doesn't like have that sweeping kind of like acid tone to it. The drive actually kind of dampens the resonance. So So it's maybe a little bit too high there. And let's make this steeper here. So we're going to click on the little 12 button here. That's going to make it a 24 dB low pass. So it's just going to be steeper. Okay, I think I like the sound of that. Maybe bring it a bit louder. Around there. Okay, so now we've got like the base of our sound done. The dry signal sounds pretty good and lush to me. Now what's left is to just go in and EQ it a bit. Let's EQ it, and then we're going to add some effects to it. So here we can see there's a ton of rumble, which I just want to take out over here. And I feel like the low end here is maybe a little bit too muddy, so I'm just going to take out a tiny bit here. And I also want to roll off the top end. I don't want it to go so bright. Okay, next up is delay, and I love using delay because you can kind of get these filter movements to repeat a few times, and it just sounds like really nice musically. A delay on here, and we're going to leave it on 3, and what we're going to do is just change the left and right, the timing of the left and right to make the delay nice and wide, and you can just set it to like 1 or 2%. That's just going to offset the left and right, and it's essentially going to make the delay sound a lot wider. So we can increase the feedback too. And I'm just going to increase the output here. Okay, I like the sound of that. And then lastly, I want to add some reverb to it. And the reverb I like to use is Black Hole by Eventide. If you don't have that, Ableton comes with a plugin like a Max for Live plugin. I think it's a Max for Live plugin in Live 11, or definitely was in Live 10. Anyway, if you go down to packs over here, should have convolution reverb, and if you don't, you might need to go and install it from Ableton. But it comes with a bunch of presets, and one of the presets is Black Hole. So if you just search Black Hole, and you can go down to reverb presets here and just choose this Black Hole one, double click on it. Now you're getting essentially a recording of that black hole. It's called an impulse response. What they do is they basically record a reverb tail and then create like sort of like an algorithmic copy of it. So it'll sound pretty much identical to the original plugin, but you obviously don't have all the same controls that you would in the other plugin. So it's just like the default preset black hole. But yeah, it sounds great. And let's just bring up the dry wet here. We can come into the EQ here and just reduce the reverb in the low range. I think I'm going to bring down this resonance a bit more. Okay, so that's pretty much it. It's more of a process than an exact, you have to do this to make a nice pad. So you can get creative and do your own thing at every step of the way. Something else you might want to explore is like playing with the wavetable position here. In Wavetable, you can pretty much click on anything and modulate it. Once you click on it, it'll just pop up over here in the matrix. And for example, we could assign a LFO2 oscillator position here, and then we'd see that moving a bit. And yeah, you can just get quite creative with it. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you want to learn more about sound design, check out all the courses we have linked below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.